Today we're going to paint this brick and rustic wood texture. Normally we'd be using a 4-foot by 6-foot canvas, but today we're going to use this 9-inch by 12-inch canvas. The first thing we need to do is lay out the lines for our painting. Here are the dimensions I used if you want to pause or take a screenshot so you can do it yourself. Next we're going to mix the colors for our brick base. I'm using red as well as a mixture of red and black to make a maroon. I also mixed up some red and copper, but I didn't use that one. Here I'm using a 1/2-inch wide brush to scumble in the two colors I mixed. This scumble texture is achieved by making little X's to blend the colors. Now we still want to see both colors distinctly and also have places where they blend. I just continued this technique until I had filled in the entire area for the brick. I wanted to have some areas of my brick that were just a little bit darker, so I scumbled in some plain black paint. I used that same black paint to fill in the windows. Then I started mixing color for the base of the wood. This was a little bit tricky. I just started with the green and white and then mixed in black slowly till I got a nice washed out grayish green. When painting this on, I made sure that my brush strokes matched the direction of the wood. For this piece all the way to the right side, I wanted my grain direction to be vertical, and for the clapboard pieces, I wanted my grain direction to be horizontal. I wanted the window molding to stand out a little bit, so I just mixed a slightly darker version of the wood base from before. Again, keeping in mind my brush strokes and the wood grain direction. Now that I had everything based, I could start dry brushing and aging the wood. I used this brush with a slight angle in it because I hadn't used it yet and I needed something with no paint on it to do this dry brush. This technique is very light. I'm not using a lot of paint at one time, and I'm making sure that if I end up with big splotches, I'm working those in. After the dry brushing, I started laying out my brick pattern. The easiest way to do this was to measure and mark every 1/2 inch along the top edge of the brick and then the bottom edge of the brick, as well as on either side. After that, I connected my horizontal lines with a straight edge. For the vertical lines, you need to skip every other row so that you get the proper brick pattern. You'll see what I'm talking about when I paint the mortar. For the mortar color, I just mixed up a medium gray, starting with a white base and mixing in black till I got the right color. I used a straight edge and ran my brush sideways to get a nice thin line. Then I did the same thing vertically, remembering to skip every other row. I decided to do a little bit more white dry brushing. Then I used the same technique, but with black paint. Now that everything was based and textured, I could move on to highlight and shadow. When applying highlight and shadow, it's important to remember what direction the light in your painting is coming from. For this project, our light will be coming from the top right corner. I started with the brick, putting a highlight on the top and right side of each brick. Remember that highlights are on the object and shadows are off the object. Also, if you make a mistake, you can always just paint over it. After my highlights were done, I started doing the shadows, and those go opposite of where the highlights are. Next, I moved on to shadowing the rest of the piece, making sure I had a nice watery black paint. I used my straight edge to make sure the shadows on my clapboard were nice and straight. For the drop shadow where the clapboard meets that piece of molding, I made them little wedges to show that the clapboard are overlapping each other. Then I went in and gave each clapboard a nice straight highlight right on top of their shadow. The finishing touch is giving the windows a small reflection detail at a 45-degree angle. And just like that, this project is done. What I really like about this is it teaches two techniques at the same time while making a pretty strong composition. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.